Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this video is a long time coming, at least for me, somebody who is largely unable to get out to see the big blockbuster movies as they're coming out, whether because I lack the funds or I lack the time. A lot of offline stuff always gets in the way, and I was really looking at not being able to talk about Avengers Age of Ultron until a potential DVD release, and were it not for the intervention of two of my great friends that I've met through YouTube and Facebook making it available to me, that would have been the case. I would have had to relegate myself to waiting until the DVD release, but now I have finally seen the movie and I wanted to talk about it. It was just gangbusters, awesome sauce from beginning to end. I sat mesmerized through the entirety of it, and it was balls to the wall. I just enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not going to go into an in-depth sort of review talking about the story and all of those kinds of things. I mean, see the movie first and foremost. Don't listen to my yak. Go see the movie, experience it for yourself. If you end up being a superhero fan, if you are a superhero movie fan or a fan of the Marvel Studios productions, I can't see you coming off of this and being overly critical. I mean, it was just that awesome. For me, it surpasses the first Avengers as being an even better movie, and it's one of those situations where the Marvel Studios sort of filmography, I feel like every step of the way they get better and better and better. Not in every estimation, but the last movie I did get to see in theaters was Winter Soldier, and that was my current favorite at the time of seeing it. This one knocked it back a peg, and eventually I'll do a video talking about sort of listing least to most favorites of all of the Marvel Studios films. But what I've done in lieu of actually talking about this film in depth and all the story, aesthetics, and whatever like that, I've cherry-picked 7 of my favorite aspects of the film. 7 moments that I just thought were gangbusters, awesome, were what made this film a vehicle to surpass the original and such like that. And feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. I love having the conversation back and forth with you guys. We can either powwow on the stuff that we mutually loved, or you can tell me what you didn't like about the film and everything like that. And to each their own in a bag of chips. So I'm going to get into this in a least to most favorite sort of countdown framework of my top 7 moments, and I'm going to be referring to my list. I'm going to start with an honorable mention that didn't make the list, but I loved all the little sort of, from the Stan Lee cameo to there's a point where Black Widow refers to Iron Man, Tony Stark as Shellhead. Those little nods and everything like that you don't normally hear in the films, I thought were really awesome. Little nods to the original comics and the nicknames Stan Lee had. He says Excelsior in a sort of drunken stupor, escorting him out and everything. But those little aspects, I always love those little Easter eggs and such like that, those referential, little situations. But in any case, starting at number 7 was Hawkeye's home life. I was really pleasantly shocked and surprised to get more of a level of depth in his character, and to see that he had a home life. You're wondering, what's the story with this guy? We don't really have much to go on, and even his own teammates were completely, bewildered and gobsmacked at this revelation. And I thought it was awesome. An actress I've followed for a long time and been a fan of, Linda Cardellini, plays his wife or girlfriend. He says girlfriend, but they're expecting the 3rd kid, so and they own a home together and all this stuff. I just thought that was really cool, giving added flavor to that character. That was largely unexpected. Coming in at number 6 has to be the Bruce Banner, Natasha Black Widow thing going on. I know there was some controversy, I guess you could say, I'll use air quotes with that term, because of the idea that, they're taking a strong, empowered woman character and they're bending her to this, typical sort of cliche romance angle and everything. And I didn't see it that way. I saw it as being 2 people mutually benefiting by being in the other's company, and how they sort of completed each other. They were both coming from backgrounds of turmoil, and Banner's is in the now, always having to worry about hulking out and everything like that, losing control as he does in the film, and she brings him back. And it's sort of a vice versa thing, where her being able to embrace him and comfort him and be the stronger of the two, they come together in that way. They complete each other, because that picks up the level of whatever regrets she's had in the past. And it was just added flavor to the film and those two characters that I really appreciated and I thought was really awesome. Coming in at number 5 has to be the surrounding characters that show up in this piece, from Rhodey to Falcon to Nick Fury. I didn't expect to see Nick Fury in this film. I mean, we went so long into it before he actually shows up. And, even though Maria Hill was there, I was like, well, I guess we're not getting Fury. And then, of course, he is very much relegated to sort of the cavalry by the end of the film. But that's awesome, and I love that whole idea at the end of the film where you see all of the characters come together as, Stark and Banner and Natasha. They all go their separate ways, but you still got Cap. Actually, I think Natasha was there with Cap. But all these new characters are sort of going to be like the Avengers B team, if you will. And I wouldn't mind seeing all of them come together in feature roles in sort of another Avengers film. I don't know what exactly they're going to be doing in the next several Marvel Studios films. I have the vague idea, the outline they've put out, as far as what movies they're going to focus on and characters and such like that, but I don't follow it too closely because I want to be surprised. But I loved leaving off with that. I loved seeing, like I say, Rhodey and Falcon showing up and just being a part of this story, being a gigantic sort of Avengers group, more than just the sort of 7 mainstays from the first Avengers film. Coming in at number 4, the additions, of course, sort of stemming off from that of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, their relationship, and the relationship spun out of that from, with Ultron as well as Vision and everything. But their relationship being that, my sister is my most important friend in my life and the thing that matters the most to me in my life. Hearing how they lost their parents and how they stuck together, it was something very relatable to me because we both lost our parents early in life and we had to fight the system to stay together and all that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't war-torn. We weren't dealing with an explosive with the name Stark written on it, but we were still fighting our own battles and seeing these two characters very awesomely portrayed. Elizabeth Olsen, and I keep forgetting the name of the guy who played Quicksilver. And that whole aspect of, time and time again in the movie, it's, what, you didn't see that coming? And you're kind of left toward a pivotal moment. You're thinking Hawkeye's about to bite the bullet. And it would make sense because look at how much depth they've given him. We now know about his family and his children. What is going to be the most impactful loss? And then at the last second, Quicksilver knocks him out of the way and he dies. And you see, Scarlet just lose it. And it's just like, it was much more emotional and much more impactful because I didn't see it coming than I would have thought. And for that, it makes the list. Coming in at number 3, Ultron and his quips time and time again. James Spader imbued this character with so much personality. For me, I have to almost say, and I know this is going to be sacrilege, and I'm sure down thumbs are going to come just from this statement alone, I think he was a better villain than Loki. Because Loki is very self-possessed and very sort of straddling that curve of just being, malevolent and evil and, vengeful. Ultron was just cocky about it. It's all in the personality of how cocky he was, and he's making these quips left and right. And I'm like, I'm dying every time he's on screen, and the way he's like reacting to the story of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch about losing their parents. He's just kind of like cockeyed, listening to him. Well, this is going to work out to my benefit, isn't it? Just that whole attitude. I loved Ultron in this film, and I don't think it would have been done with as much, suavity and personality if Spader hadn't voiced the character, quite frankly, and thus it's on the list. Hulkbuster versus the enraged, mind-warped Hulk. That entire sequence. I don't know what else to say about it. It's something I have been dying for the longest time, very much in the same vein as I'm dying to see, Batman v Superman, those two characters in live action format on screen and everything together, existing together, whether they fight or not, whatever. But that's a lifelong thing I've wanted to see depicted on screen. I've wanted to see in a sort of DC Comics, all these characters exist together universe. And so this moment ever since I first heard there was a sequence in the comics, and I've never actually read this particular storyline that it took place in, what have you, but ever since I became aware that Iron Man created a Hulk Buster, sort of Iron Man suit, armor, whatever you want to call it, this tank, mother trucker, to be able to take the Hulk down a peg, I was uber excited, because it's like, other than maybe Superman, who is Hulk gonna, fight against that can match his level of prowess? And in that battle, it was double-sided. It wasn't like the Hulk could conquer all throughout the entirety of it. He was ripping into the Hulk Buster, don't get me wrong. But, Tony Stark basically held his own through the entirety of it. And that, to me, it was like the perfect matchup. It's like what I would want to see tentatively in a Superman versus Doomsday. These two hulking brutes just going back and forth, having at it. And, you're not sure who the clear winner is going to be. And for that, I was on the edge of my seat through that entire sequence. And I was like, what's going to happen, even though they followed up with that scene we saw in the trailer of Banner being sort of, not chained up as I originally thought looking at the trailer, but, in the Quinjet when they finally calmed him down and brought him back from the edge. And there's talk of, well, they might call for his arrest and all this kind of stuff, because he terrasses through that entire little city and everything. It was just, pardon the pun, incredible, that entire sequence. And so coming in at the number one, my most favorite aspect of this film has to be sort of a multi-layered thing, from the birth of the Vision to a key moment showing his, the faith the other characters can have in him. The entire construction of Vision and spinning out of, Ultron's plans and using Jarvis and creating a hybrid, Thor having the visions, the entire aspect of that was mesmerizing to me. I, am largely unfamiliar with Vision in the comics, and this to me put him as my favorite character in the film. To only be outdone by the moment where everyone is like, why should we trust this guy? He was born out of something Ultron was doing. Why should we trust him? He's got one of the Infinity Stones in his head and all this kind of stuff. And they had that sequence earlier in the film where everybody is trying to pick up Thor's hammer, the Mjolnir, and none of them can do it. And he's very much boasting, only one who is, true and devout of honor and purity and trustworthiness and all this kind of stuff. Only those who are worthy can pick up the Mjolnir. And you have Vision just walk over, I don't know how I'm going to make you trust me. Boom, he picks it up, he hands it to Thor. And I'm like, everybody is just stunned. Favorite moment in the entirety of the film was him picking up the Mjolnir and handing it to Thor. That's just my favorite entire scene in the entirety of the film. Everyone's reactions as he's walking off camera, and you got Banner. They zoom in on Banner. He's kind of like, did anybody just see that? Favorite moment, favorite aspect of the film were the new characters. No, disparaging remarks on all of the characters who carried over from all the other Marvel Studios films. Iron Man, Cap, Thor, Black Widow, Nick Fury, as I say. But I really loved the additions, the sort of official Avengers-izing of characters like Rhodey and Falcon, seeing Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but most of all, Vision was just, he's like my favorite character in the movie because of moments like that. Like I say, the compelling nature of his being birthed, the matrix of his birth, and his, being Jarvis, and the idea that nobody knows whether or not they can trust him. Stark unleashed Ultron on the world, and now they're facing Armageddon. And could this be that whole scenario playing out all over again? Nope, he picked up Thor's hammer and everything's going to be fine. Loved that. Even the dynamics between Vision and, taking out Ultron and there being, he is the savior of Scarlet Witch after she loses her brother and all that kind of stuff. But the entire movie was just awesome. Those were my 7 favorite aspects of it. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. As I say, love having the conversation back and forth with you. But what were your favorite moments? What were aspects of the movie you didn't necessarily dig? Again, coming off this movie, I don't really have much critical to say about it. For me, it did everything right. It was everything I wanted to see in a film. I think the biggest thing would be in any sort of approaching a negative response to the movie is that Quicksilver bit the bullet, quite literally. I liked that character, and I'd like to have seen more of him going on into further movies. Maybe we'll get that, maybe we won't. It remains to be seen, as I say. But for me, Age of Ultron was gangbusters. It was awesome sauce. All of those superlatives I used at the beginning of the video, I just fanboyed over this movie wholeheartedly. I am admittedly not as well versed in the Marvel Comics, sort of framework, all the history and characters, as I am with DC Comics. And even then, I haven't read a lot of DC stuff, and the stuff I have read, because of my own creative mind, being a writer, being a video maker, all that kind of stuff, it's not always easy to retain all of the facts and the minutiae of these characters and the stories I've read. And so sometimes I'll pick up, like, All-Star Superman, and I'll be reading it for the first time all over again because I've forgotten so much of it, and I only have certain moments that stand out to me. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this film, as far as the moments that I feel like will stand the test of time, that even if I forget the story 10 years down the line, I'm going to remember these moments, And so yeah, as I say, I'd love to hear from you what you thought of the film, positive, negative, or in between, favorite moments, such like that, favorite characters, all those, good things. And yeah, so that would be pretty much it for me on this gangbusters movie. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And that's all I got to say on it. So I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.